Hello and welcome to my presentation on the concept of tragedy. I am Dr. Sunil Sawant, Professor and Head, Department of English, Kishanvir Mahavidyalaya. Why? In this presentation, we are mainly concerned with the nature of tragedy as was envisioned by the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle. Aristotle in his Poetics gives us the definition of tragedy. He was the first to give us the comprehensive definition of tragedy. According to him, what is tragedy? Tragedy is an imitation of an action that is serious, complete, and of a certain magnitude. In language embellished with each kind of artistic embellishment, the several kinds being found in separate parts of the play, in the form of the action and not of narration, through pity and fear effecting the proper purgation of these emotions. This is Professor Butcher's translation, English translation of the original Greek definition which we find in Aristotle's book Poetics. Now this definition covers two important aspects of tragedy. First, the nature of tragedy, and second, the function of tragedy. In this presentation, we are concerned with the first part. In green color here, we have highlighted the part which mainly describes the nature of tragedy. The second part, which is in blue color, is about the function of tragedy that we can discuss separately. Now, Aristotle explains what is tragedy by telling us about three important things about any work of art or tragedy in particular. What are the objects of imitation? What is the manner of imitation? And what is the medium of imitation? These three important things are important, and tragedy is different from comedy because comedy deals with something that is non-serious, whereas tragedy deals with only serious actions. So the objects of imitation for tragedy are serious, whereas for comedy there are non-trivial, non-serious objects. Second, the manner of imitation. Whereas the epic is in the form of narration, in the written form, tragedy is a play to be enacted on the stage, to be performed on the stage. So the manner of imitation we find in the case of tragedy is dramatic, whereas in the case of epic it is narrative. And what is the medium of imitation for tragedy? Different kinds of devices that are used while writing tragedy. So dialogues are there, music is there, choral songs are there. That is the medium which the dramatist uses while writing tragedy. Now, in his definition, Aristotle uses the word complete along with the word serious. The action of tragedy should be complete. What does he mean by that? The action presented in tragedy should have a beginning, middle, and an end. Now what kind of beginning should be there in tragedy? The beginning is that from which further action flows out and which is intelligible in itself and not consequent or dependent on any previous situation. The beginning of tragedy should be such that we should not, the spectator should not feel that something should have presented before this beginning. The beginning should be such that the spectator or one who watches drama, he should have this feeling that this is the proper beginning of this play, of this tragedy. The middle should come out of the beginning and it should lead to the end, whereas the end should come out of the middle, but it should not lead to some other end. Okay, this is what is Aristotle talks about the beginning, the middle and the end, and the action of tragedy should be based on the laws of probability and necessity. The action of a tragedy must be of a certain magnitude. It should have certain length. It should create the impression that some complete whole, complete action has been presented on the stage. Action must be long enough to permit an orderly development of the plot to catastrophe, that is tragic end with which tragedy ends. It should not be too long, for in that case it will not be taken in as an artistic whole. So whatever action that has been presented through tragedy should give the impression, create the impression of an artistic whole made up of different parts. Now, what are the different elements of tragedy? Aristotle mentions in all 6 elements that make a play tragedy. First is plot, which is the arrangement of incidents, and he calls it the very soul of tragedy. Along with plot, we have the characters, and these characters, what they do, what they say, that make the action, the plot of the play. Third important element is diction or the language, and it should be expressive language. It should be poetic kind of language. Next is thought, the power of saying whatever can be said or required where a statement is made. Thought is the intellectual element in a tragedy, and it is expressed through the speech of a character. So whatever ideas that reach us through tragedy, they make what we call thought one of the important elements of tragedy. Spectacle has something to do with the way action has been presented on the stage. That is called stagecraft. The way action of tragedy reaches the spectators or the viewers. And final element is song or the lyrical element, different songs which used to be inserted in the action of tragedy when tragedy was performed in the ancient times. All these in combination make what is called tragedy. Thank you very much.